Heads up.
Three home games for us to not only kind of find some confidence again and some stride, but also obviously to get some more points, get back on that train. So I always try to look at it in a positive way, right? If you look at it as a must-win game, then it's added pressure. There's already pressure always. Every game we put pressure on ourselves, but if you look at it as an opportunity, maybe that's a bit more of a bright way to look at it. But it doesn't make it easier. I get that. We're gonna have to earn it. We haven't played against New York in a long time, but they're an aggressive team. They press very, very high. They're hungry. They try to cause turnovers. So it's gonna be a difficult match.
Go ahead.
Do you get excited to play somebody new?
Good question. I think. Yeah, it's weird that we haven't played them since what, 19?
Yeah.
I feel like that will be maybe good opportunities when we have those new tournaments come in. Maybe you kind of change things up a little bit and have a couple of games against teams that you haven't faced in a while. You know, Philadelphia or Montreal or New York like this. So, but yeah, it's exciting. I welcome the challenge because we do watch obviously most recent games of teams and then we look at previous encounters as well. But when we haven't encountered them in a while, then that kind of goes out the window, and you kind of have to see how they've been doing. Obviously, also some changes, a new coach as well, so that kind of changes a few things for them. So, but yeah, it's exciting, and maybe that's what we needed, is something a little bit to get you off your toes and to get back on a winning train.
High pressing teams. How important is it just to stay compact, and then when you get the ball, get that pass to basically turn the team over and create an opportunity?
I think first we have to recognize when it's good to play and when it's not. And then I think instead of staying compact actually on the ball, we have to stretch out. We have to really create as much distance as possible and as much ground for them to cover so we can spread their press out, because I think they press with about 6 players or 7 players. And so if we can really spread them, whether that means we're spreading them vertically or horizontally, that's for us to then find out how we're able to create holes, and then we have to find those holes. But I think the first and the most important step is to recognize when to play and when not, and that'll be a challenge tomorrow.
First 20 minutes last game, according to the coach, y'all had a tremendous start, and then something happened. What's the messaging around we got to stay with what we're doing?
Yeah, I think we watched some video today and we went a little bit further back of games where we did things really, really well, and it just proves to you that we have it in this locker room. We have the quality. We have shown that at times when we have really high energy that we can make opponents very uncomfortable, and I think maybe that's what's been lacking a little bit at times, is where we've been possessing the ball, but we haven't really made the opponent too uncomfortable at times with set possession or set press. So that was really nice to see, but it doesn't really change the identity of the team. I don't think whether you have good games or bad stretches. I think you have to believe in the way you want to play, the way the coach wants you to play, and you have to keep staying together and trying to move forward.
Part of a veteran group, obviously there's been a lot of players with some lack of experience coming on and playing on, but how do you balance regaining some of your veteran players now coming back onto the field and continuing to impress those younger players to continue to support you guys during practice, and even though they'll be taking a step back?
I think it's always important to have an influx of a mix of veterans and young guys, young and exuberant. People that don't really have too much knowledge yet, because sometimes when you're experienced and you've been in situations, you approach things a bit more timidly and a little bit more conservatively, and so it's really nice when you have young guys who don't know that yet and can bring that exuberance to the field. Having said that, it's tricky when you have players who've been starters for a long time and very important players and come back from injuries, how do you incorporate them back in? Because they're wanting to play. They're upset about having missed time, whether it is due to injury or something else. So that's I don't envy our coach for having to navigate those situations, but I think it's always important to have a good mix, and I think we do. We have some young guys who have shown that they're very, very capable, and for them now, take that, if they make it back onto the bench or out of the 18, take that experience that they gained and apply it in, whether it's an S2 game or in training, pushing harder and harder. And that's all good. That's all good things for the team.
Is that kind of the opportunity you're talking about when you get that mixture in terms of the young guys or the veterans, and then how it helps the overall team?
Yeah, I think so. Because you never want to have no competition. You never want to have, and I think that kind of comes from if you have all veterans, but one's a clear starter, then there's no competition there and everybody's just coasting. But I think we're having some positions where there's some young guys that are really trying to ask questions and make it difficult for the gaffer. And then these are good situations. These are good for the team overall. It really puts players in uncomfortable positions, but that's how you excel, I think.
There, Raul is going to be available for the game.
And what have you seen from him this week that sort of tipped that scales on that?
Well, look, he would have told you he was ready to play 2 weeks ago. He had to follow the training protocol, and the training protocol with Raul is not finished. There's going to be a season-long plan to keep him healthy, which includes limiting his minutes just coming out of the gate, making sure that his training plan is appropriate. Like there'll be some days where he off to the side does other work and just make sure that the hamstrings are getting stronger. So it's just the first step in getting him back 100%. But happy to have him back. He was in a good mood. Trainers think it's safe. He can play some minutes if we need him.
And how much of a challenge is that to balance his obvious desire to get back on the field and your desire to make sure he stays on the field?
Yeah, that's always where I have to accept some responsibility there. Yeah, in the heat of the moment, games. He's got time limits. We do it by time, and we also do it by actual volume because we're in real time. And so when he hits those markers, he's got to come off.
What are his markers, the time? What's
I won't tell you that. I'll tell you that maybe next week.
Go ahead.
You had mentioned also wanting to be, kind of keep an eye on him too, given the disease that he had. So how is he doing?
He's feeling better. He's feeling a little stronger. We've got 3 games in a week. He's gonna ramp up. He's gonna play considerable minutes because we're gonna need him.
Steph talked about the opportunity, the next 3 games, but I know you're going to talk about how this game is first the opportunity for the team.
I'll talk about all 3 months. Yeah, we talked about home form earlier in the year.
Sure.
What has happened recently with Casey and Austin. Yeah, we've talked about all those, but you can't win all 3 unless you win the first one. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to talk about the 3 as a collective, as a group. What are the rotations, substitution-wise, keep people fresh? How do we roll out the best team for each match? We're taking it all in.
And then the message to play expensive at home and free-flowing.
We are not going to change from what we want to accomplish at home. The challenge there is always we want to press higher up the field. We want to, get in transition moments without the game getting too stretched. We want to do all of those things, but, we have to execute them.
How different is the balancing act that you have to do when you're playing home and away? Like 3 games in a week is different, or how different is it when you have 3 games
easier. It's easier. I know your question. It's way easier. Way easier. I mean, there's travel, cross-country travel in this league, and you might get stuck going to, Columbus, or last year I think we had 3 road games in a week or something ridiculous like that. Yeah. So it is an advantage to be at home. Yes.